Classes today. Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to another installment of TOS Tuesdays Review. Today, we're reviewing Season 1, Episode 4, The Naked Time, or the episode I like to call Sulu with a Sword. Woohoo! Yeah. So, how's everyone today? We had a few great streams last night. Good news, there was no major copyright claim or anything. It was a StreamYard glitch, some problem that was happening. So it was just about how Raquel had determined. So thankfully, um, we just went ahead and were able to move on and do like a part two of the. Yeah, I can't really see out of these glasses. There we go. Wow, light. So So anyway, yeah, there was no problem. So what we did was after we finished, while it was still glitching, we finished like a part one of the celebrations for the veterans yesterday for both countries, and then we moved on to our friend Larry, my brother who I've known for a long time, with Be Yourself Adventures. We went there and we finished that last night. So that was a lot of fun. We had a good time. I was actually involved in 3 streams. I had my own, I did Larry's afterwards, but before that, Larry and I and Jim, had done a previous stream on his channel. So we were it was, a busy day yesterday on Monday. So it went well, though. Everything went fine. All my naked time. Yeah. Hi, Brad Wolf oh 07. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, he says, "Oh my, naked time." Yeah. Hi, Mikey. Hey, how you doing? And Suzanne says her love sends her love too. She says hello to you, Brad. Okay. All right. Well, let's dive into it. Let's see what we got here with the naked time. Okay. So, this episode came out on Thursday, September 29th, 1966. After, like I said last week, where I turned one. Where no man has gone before. I was 1 year old when that came out. Um, and it says here the crew is infected with a mysterious disease that removes people's emotional inhibitions. Ooh, I love that word. Inhibitions to a dangerous degree. Five 5.4K people have rated this a 7.8 out of 10. That's pretty good. That's about a B. So that I think that's where I came from too. And it's actually a lot of fun watching Sulu, topless, and oh my, and he's running down the hallway with a, big epi, with a big foil, kind of weapon. So yes, it's interesting. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's see here. Naked time. Yeah, they show him without his shirt on. It was directed by Mark Daniels. Um, besides Gene, there was another writer that co-wrote this episode with him, John D.F. Black. And then it had, let's see here, besides William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, Majel Barrett played Christine Chapel, about DeForest Kelly played Dr. McCoy. Riley, who was singing Irene when he went nuts, was played by Bruce Hyde. So, and then Tormolen is played by Stuart Moss. And then you had Sulu, uh, Uhura, Scotty, and Yeoman Rand, Grace Lee Whitney. And there was one amorous crewman played by William Frederick Knight. And a laughing crewman was played by John Bella. Andrea Drom was Yeoman Smith. That was uncredited. There was at least 6 roles, including one guy named Frank Da Vinci. Wow. And he played Lieutenant Brent, and he was uncredited. So, the one we're going to take a look at today is Bruce Hyde, the one that plays Riley for the first time. And then, and we'll also take a look at Stuart Moss, who played Tormolen. So, yeah, should be interesting. Okay. So let's take a look here. Okay. So, after the scene where Spock is weeping, Leonard Nimoy's fan mail increased exponentially. Viewers were enthralled with the idea that Spock was secretly a reservoir of love and passion instead of an empty emotional void. This reaction inspired future scripts, or further scripts, which explored Spock's inner makeup. Now, this is the only TOS episode in which the three primary female crew members, Uhura, Chapel, and Rand, appeared together. The characters did not appear together again until Star Trek The Motion Picture in 1979. The budget strapped show often made use of the creativity of its prop staff in coming up with low cost solutions to otherwise pricey items. Here, the thermal suits worn by Spock and Tormolen on the planet's surface were fashioned from 1960s Art Deco style shower curtains. Wow. This is the first episode in broadcast order to feature the Vulcan nerve pinch. And while under the influence of the virus, Nurse Chapel attempts to seduce Spock. This would be the first depiction of what many fans perceived as underlying romantic tensions between the characters, or at least Chapel's unrequited remote romantic attraction to Spock. Now, this is the first time that Eddie Paskey has dialogue in Star Trek. Originally, Lieutenant Ryan was to have said more lines, but not having any other acting job than being an extra, Paskey was so nervous that a few of his lines had to be said by Spock instead. McCoy tears the sleeve on Kirk's uniform to inject him with the hypo, but this seems to have been done for dramatic effect only as, in subsequent episodes, a hypo shot is delivered through clothing. The scene in which Spock cries was not in the original script. Leonard Nimoy improvised the scene in one take. According to William Shatner's memoirs, the scene where Spock breaks down into tears was originally supposed to have been a simple sight gag of a crewman painting a mustache on Spock. Leonard Nimoy desired a deeper scene for Spock and created the poignant interplay between Spock's human and alien halves himself. As the production day was winding down, there was only time for only a single take, which Nimoy did unscripted. After his appearance in the second pilot episode, Where No Man Has Gone Before, George Takei, accepted the regular role of Sulu, largely because he read a draft of this script and relished the idea of running shirtless through the ship, sword in hand. However, he had no fencing experience, so as soon as he was hired, he began a crash course on the sport. In the end, he loved his sword fighting scene so much he held on to the rapier for several hours, poking stagehands with it and engaging in mock duels off the set. In his autobiography To the Stars, Takei names this episode as his favorite. Before being cast in this episode, Majel Barrett, convinced she could play the part of Chapel convincingly, bleached her hair and went into the Star Trek offices, momentarily getting by Gene Roddenberry before he recognized her. Barrett was convinced if she could fool Roddenberry, she could fool NBC. According to Herbert F. Solow, when NBC got their first look at the footage of Chapel, Jerry Stanley, an NBC executive, remarked, "Well, well, well, look who's back." This episode is considered a bottle show, as it contains no villain and only regular characters, and takes place almost entirely aboard the Enterprise. According to John D.F. Black, at the time both Riley and Tormolen were under consideration to become regulars. The bowling alley that was mentioned by Lieutenant Riley was never seen on any show, but it did show up on the USS Enterprise blueprints issued in the 1970s. And John D.F. Black himself came up with Sulu's berserk scenes without specifying the weapon to be used. Unable to decide between a samurai sword or a fencing foil, he left the choice to George Takei, who picked the latter with the thought that by the 23rd century, humanity would have developed to a point where, in terms of culture, people would have moved beyond simply adhering to ways of their ethnic background. And this is the first appearance in the series of Nurse Christine Chapel, played by Gene Roddenberry's then mistress and future wife, Major Barrett. And director Mark Daniels wanted George Takei, or I'm sorry, director Mark Daniels visited George Takei in his trailer and asked him to take off his shirt. After observing his bare chest, Daniels announced that they would do the fencing scenes shirtless. Unknown to him and the rest of the cast and crew, Takei spent all his free time in the next 3 days doing push-ups. The handheld device used by Spock to figure the time before impact is actually an E6B flight computer, which pilots still use today. The particular brand of E6B used is a Jeppesen CSG-1P slide graphic computer. The same CSG-1P can be seen in the following episodes: The Corbomite Maneuver, Mud's Women, and Wolf in the Fold. The dead woman's body on PSI 2000 was a mannequin. In fact, obviously so, as the mannequin's face is shown relatively close up. Her torso was permanently damaged by the ice put on it, and after the shooting, she was taken by Robert H. Justman to his office and was displayed there along with the M113 creature from the Man Trap, and later the two Gorn episode costumes from Arena. Justman placed the naked mannequin under a shower to scare unsuspecting visitors in the restroom. This is one of the few episodes where Spock makes a sarcastic comment. After Soother's brandishing a sword on the bridge, Spock gives him a Vulcan nerve pinch. He then says, "Take D'Artagnan here to sickbay." The futuristic looking instrument Spock uses in the derelict planetary outpost is in fact an old style 20th century radiation survey meter, which was called, for some mysterious reason by those who used it, the cutie pie. And before we continue with trivia, let's see who else is coming to the chat. As we said this morning, we started with Brad Wolf. Oh my, naked time. And he says hello. And he says, send my warmest regards to your lovely wife and fur babies. Oh, thank you, Brad Wolf. You're very nice. Jim's Landscape has says, good morning. And good morning to you, Jim. And hello, Jim, for Brad. And behind the scenes of Breach 4 video is available right now. So Jim's Landscape has posted the link there in the chat. Make sure you go there, check it out after our stream today. To be fair, I couldn't be convinced to take a job on a starship if I got to run around with a sword of any kind. Being shirtless would just be a bonus. Yes, agreed. Well, they had workout facilities, right? They had the bowling alley, which they never mentioned, but it's in the fingerprints, like we said. And then they've got, they have a workout room. I know they've shown that a few times where, even Shatner goes in there, he's shirtless and going, lifting all that stuff and whatever. So they had separate facilities, men, women, exercising, could do shit, whatever. I mean, that's what was great about the Enterprise, back then. You had so many different decks, and you could do other, you had a full medical facility with Dr. McCoy and sick bay and everything. So I mean, and rec room, you could go in there, sing, dance, do whatever you want, play chess, 3D chess. Um, you know, they had their own little, cafeteria, so you go in there, eat, do whatever, have some food on your break, on your shift. I wonder what their shifts were like, you know, because I know there were some people that had to be on the bridge, right? Overnight night shifts and things like that. I never understood any of that. I mean, I'm assuming that these were like normal 8-hour shifts, right? So you would have 3 8-hour shifts on any given day, on a 24-hour period, and you would either like work overnight on the bridge or you go somewhere in the ship in engineering probably and doing your engineering shift, or you do go over work with Dr. McCoy as a nurse or whatever, doing your nurse shift or things like that. Minor injuries. It's kind of interesting. It really is. Um, and then as later, when you had the enterprise grow, when it went from the regular one to A, then B, C, D, E, F, G, continued growing and adding more decks and more rooms and things like that. More crew members. And I mean, like, yeah, I mean, um, it was on this original ship, right? He had over 400 people on it, 430, I think it was, 435, something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but I know it was over 400. So yeah, I mean, just amazing. Yeah, exactly. They had facilities for keeping in shape. We would be good. Yeah, Brad, totally great. And Jim says, "Bye, Brad." Okay, I know he was trying to say hi, but that damn autocorrect. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get back to the trivia here, since there's always a lot, because people love to talk about these episodes. Okay, so the next one here is Scotty's phaser does not produce a beam as he uses it to cut through the bulkhead to engineering, but blue sparks fly out of the wall to show the cutting action. The absence of a phaser beam is probably due to a post production oversight or the need to save money on special effects costs. It is also possible that because Scotty is engaged in such a delicate operation, the phaser is on an extremely tight setting and the energy beam is so narrow as to be invisible. A similar effect, or lack thereof, was used in the episode "The Way to Eden." In the remastered version of this episode, a beam was added to the phaser he's using, among other remastered special effects in the episode, such as showing the outpost on PSI 2000 in the main teaser before the opening credits. Leonard Nimoy stated that the idea for the naked time came about when he started crying for no reason during a conference with the writers. Now, while Kirk is in briefing room 2 with Spock and becomes affected with the Psi 2000 disease, he professes his love for the Enterprise, the fact that he can't have a permanent romantic relationship because he gives, she, the Enterprise, takes. She won't let him live his life. He has to live hers. He has a beautiful yeoman, played by Janice Rand, but he's not permitted to notice her. This is one of two times he allows his hidden romantic interest in Yeoman Rand, the other being in the next episode, The Enemy Within, which was the evil side of Captain Kirk, telling Yeoman Rand that they were both pretending and needed to stop pretending that they weren't interested in each other. I want to live. That one. Kirk comments on the loneliness of command while he's infected by the virus. One day, no brain on my shoulder, a beach to walk on. And later, states to Yeoman Rand while on the bridge, no beach to walk on. Well, it appears that even though he's a strong captain, in reality, he's extremely lonely. The sensor device that Spock carries was seen previously in The Enemy Within as Scotty checked out the ore on Fisher's uniform. It is actually a repainted and slightly modified nuclear Chicago Model 2586 cutie pie radiation survey meter from the late 1950s. In the episode Obsession, it can be seen being held by a crewman as he prepares to scan Garovik's quarters following the infiltration of the cloud creature. Now, as we all know, the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, The Naked Now, is largely based on this episode. The two episodes share similar plot lines, and the TNG episode includes many scenes and images which were directly inspired by this episode. This was the first and only time an episode of TOS was remade outright by TNG. The events of this episode were also referenced in Relics. That's the one that featured James Doohan coming back as Scotty with the Dyson sphere. So, very cool. George Takei had great fun acting in this episode, and he took his fencing very seriously. He avidly practiced his technique on the set, and he worked out so he could define his chest muscles for his memorable scenes in the corridor. And then Sula tells Uhura, "I'll protect you, fair maiden," meaning by some definitions, light skinned virgin. Uhura replies, "Sorry, neither," which means that she's not light skinned and not a virgin. Network censors in the 1960s would not knowingly have allowed an unmarried character to declare herself a non virgin, but the ambiguity of the usage of both items allowed the show to do what TV tropes calls getting crap past the radar. According to Robert H. Justman, in his book Inside Star Trek The Real Story, author John D. F. Black was so focused on writing The Naked Time that his duties as the series story editor suffered. Black was later outraged when he discovered that Gene Roddenberry rewrote his script without consulting him or even telling him about it. Now, this was intended to be a two-part episode, but the idea was dropped. Now, what would have been the second half of the story then became the episode Tomorrow is Yesterday. And this is the first appearance of the Recreation Room in the regular series, after its very different depiction in the second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before, which is actually a redress of the briefing room set. The three-dimensional tic-tac-toe game, seen alongside the chess prop, can be seen in many later episodes in the same set. And this episode was long a particular favorite among fans at conventions. At various points, they would hiss in imitation of the passage of the virus, sing along with Riley, applaud Sulu's initial appearance as a swashbuckler, and cheer Kirk when he declared that he would never lose the Enterprise. Now, the frozen appearance of the Psi 2000 base that the landing party was achieved with a set lit by lighting filters and dry powder sprayed from a fire extinguisher. And this is the episode in which Scotty delivers the line that would become his character's catchphrase: Captain, I cannot change the laws of physics. And then the character of Joe Tormolin was the only one seen during the whole of TOS who wore the rank markings of Lieutenant Junior grade. In the rec room, he mistakenly states that Lieutenant Sulu does not outrank him. Now, the lighted panels in the sick bay and engineering did not contain lights that moved in patterns. Rather, stagehands manipulated objects behind the panels to make it look as if the lights were shifting about. In The Naked Time and other episodes, you can see this money saving trick in action, especially in close ups or in rooms on the sets that are well lit. In the original script, it was Lieutenant John Farrell who sabotaged main engineering, but in later rewrites, the character was replaced by Kevin Riley. Nurse Chapel appears to be watching a slideshow of some sort when Riley surprises her. This was Majel Barrett's debut in the role and establishes her love for Spock. And this is the only time we see the transporter chamber used for decontamination. And it's also the only episode in which the appearance of a meal from a food synthesizer is accompanied by a puff of steam. And it's also listed as one of the 10 essential episodes of TOS in the 2008 reference book, Star Trek 101 by Paula M. Block and Terry J. Erdman. Very cool. Okay. And getting back to the chat for a moment, Bradwood says, autocorrect my old nemesis. Grrr. Hello, Jeff B. Hello. Welcome, welcome. He says, happy Remembrance Day, Mikey, Jim, Brad. Thank you, Jeff. Uh, Jeff, there is three different live streams we did yesterday for Remembrance Day here in Canada, sir. One was done by Jim's Landscape, and it was chat number 2. So check that out. There is also one that we did, Suzanne and I, under MikeySuzeFour. Check that out. And then part 2 of that, because we had a glitch, it's a weird ass StreamYard thing, but thankfully it wasn't a copyright claim. So thank you, YouTube overlords. But anyway, part 2 was done on my friend Larry's channel, Be Yourself Adventurers, and he said, "Let's talk, let's talk live." So if you get a chance to check that out, Jeff, or if you were there yesterday, it was fantastic. I didn't see you, but if you get a chance, check those out because those were fun streams. We had a lot of fun on those. And but yes, happy Remembrance Day to you, sir. And Brad says, as much as I love Star Trek and respect Gene Roddenberry for creating it, I can admit Gene could be a jerk. Yes. Rewriting the script is just so typical of that duality of Gene Roddenberry. I totally agree. Bradwood says, hey there, Jeff. And Jim says, hi, Jeff B. Cool, cool. All right. So let's continue. It's a lot of reading on this one. So let's see. Probably need another drink. Mm. Okay. So, and I'm sorry, give me a moment. Let's see here. Thank you. I didn't want to be rude. Okay. So let's see. All right. The scene in the briefing room where Spock breaks down crying was hastily rewritten after Leonard Nimoy objected to its comedic content. Originally, Spock was supposed to break into tears after a crewman who had been seen in the episode painting on the walls after being infected passed by and painted a mustache on Spock. Nimoy felt that it wasn't the significant scene that Spock deserved. It was a funny scene, theatrical and inventive, Nimoy wrote, but it disturbed me greatly. It contradicted everything I knew about him. Nimoy felt that with Vulcans and Spock, especially valuing dignity, he would never have cried in front of another crewman. He would maintain control at all costs and not let down his barriers until he had found a private place. Nimoy hastily convinced John D.F. Black to create the quieter, heavier scene in the final cut. However, there was one more hurdle: production. Star Trek had a severely limited budget, so going into overtime was out of the question. Come 6:18 p.m., we had to pull the plug and get off the set, whether the scene was filmed or not, and tomorrow's schedule didn't allow for us to come back and finish it. We had just enough time for one take, so it had to go perfectly. Nimoy did his one take perfectly, and after director Mark Daniels quietly said cut, the entire crew applauded. This takes place in the year 2266. It says the close up of Kirk in his chair at the beginning of Act 1 is a recycled shot from the last scene of The Man Trap. It can also be seen in Mud's Women. When Uhura takes Riley's place at the navigation station, this is the first of only 9 times when a female Enterprise crew member sits at the combined console. Uhura also takes the navigation station in the Man Trap in footage reused from the Naked Time, Balance of Terror, and Court Martial. The others are Jana Haynes in The Gamesters of Triskelion, Lieutenant Rada in That Which Survives, and 2 unnamed lieutenants in both The Way to Eden and Requiem for Methuselah. In this episode in Charlie X, the Jeffries tube is located in a spur hallway. In the second season, the set piece had been moved to a main corridor. Now, when Sulu invades the bridge, bare chested with his sword, he is glistening with sweat and grabs Uhura, who struggles against him. Sulu is then wrestled down by Kirk and nerve pinched by Spock. Later, it is revealed that the Psi 2000 virus passes from person to person via perspiration. It is unknown what degree of physical contact is needed to contract the disease or the exact circumstance for its transfer, which might explain why Kirk, Spock, and Uhura did not contract the disease from Sulu. A reaction shot of Spock on the bridge from this episode is reused in both The Enemy Within and The City on the Edge of Forever. During the rec room scene, Joe Tormolin tells Sulu, "You don't rank me and you don't have pointed ears." Sulu does, in fact, rank him. He and Riley hold the rank of lieutenant, while Tormolin is a lieutenant junior grade. Tormolin's tunic, with the single broken line of braid on the sleeve, is the only example of the lieutenant junior grade rank in the original series. Widely believed to be the inspiration for Back to Reality in 1992, which has a similar plot. In a 2001 interview, John D.F. Black also nominated this episode as his favorite. And in the soundtrack, when Riley walks down the passageway to sickbay, the soundtrack plays the opening measures of Percy Granger's Rufford Park Poachers. And the first draft of this episode's script was completed on June 23rd of 1966. Excuse me, the final draft was completed on June 28th, with revised pages dated July 1st and July 5th. The actual episode was filmed during early July. According to at least one source, this episode was to have been the first part of a 2-part story that would have concluded with Tomorrow is Yesterday. A late script revision came during post production, as the episode needed some additional captain's log entries. This episode features the first reference to bulkheads in Star Trek. The choice of song that Riley sings, I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen, may be a nod to one of the first science based science fiction movies, the movie Destination Moon back in 1950. In that film, the comedic relief character Joe Sweeney plays the song on his harmonica while the ship is traveling through space. And this is the only time in the series where helm and navigation are manned by both Shatner, Eddie Paskey, and Nimoy, Frank Da Vinci, body doubles. And the dead woman's body on Side 2000, as we said, was a mannequin that was rented for this episode. And it sustained damage during filming, so Desilu was obliged to pay for it. And of course, Robert H. Justman, the Star Trek producer, he kept that mannequin around to scare people. Duration of time on the show. So okay. Now, here is a couple spoilers, and there is only like, let's see here, one, two, three, four. All right. So go ahead and put your hands over your ears so you don't have to hear these spoilers from this episode in case you haven't seen it yet. And then, like I said, when I'm done, I'll give you the hand signal. So, all right. So the first spoiler is this episode mirrors the tragedy of the USS Thresher, which was SSN 593. Now, this was a naval submarine from the U.S. Navy. The Thresher was at maximum dive depth when a water leak in the engine room caused the nuclear engines to shut down. And an emergency restart would take more time than they had. Without forward thrust to surface and the ballast valves frozen, the sub continued its descent until it reached crush depth. In this episode, the Enterprise's engines were shut down and the ship was in a rapidly decaying orbit. An engine restart would take more time than they had. The Enterprise should have burned up in a giant fireball, but the crew manages an emergency restart that saved their lives. The Thresher loss happened just 3 years prior to this episode, and it was in the Atlantic Ocean, supposedly where the Bermuda Triangle is. So I do remember reading about that. The Enterprise crew death toll is one. Only one person dies in this episode. McCoy identifies the causative agent as a complex chain of water molecules. In the late 60s, researchers looked for forms of polymerized water by distilling and redistilling massive quantities of pure water. They ended up with a small amount of highly viscous water with peculiar traits. For a few years, polywater was feared as a global threat. It turned out to be water contaminated with thousands of fingerprints from all the glassware. And because of the events of this episode, everyone on the Enterprise is 3 days older. At the end of the episode, they go through a time warp, which took them 3 days in the past, caused by mixing matter and antimatter at a lower temperature than was in the hypothesis. Okay, now you can remove your hands from your ears. Okay, we'll get to the goofs in just a moment. Oh, lots of love in the chat. Thank you, everybody. Let's go ahead and read back what we have here. So Jeff did give us a happy Remembrance Day to us, Mikey, Jim, and Brad. Let's see here. Gorilla says, "Damn it, Mikey! It's way too early. Start over." Well, you have to re-listen, Gorilla. That's not my fault. I have a lot of plans today. We're going to have breakfast this morning for free, and then we're also having lunch. And then we're supposed to deal with a shot. I don't think we're going to do the shots today. Those are just they're available for free if we want to take them. There's a flu shot and a COVID, and I'm just going to say the COV part, but COV shot. But we're not going to do that. So I mean, we're just gonna we've had our barrage, so we're okay. Bradwood says hi, Gorilla. Gorilla says hey, Brad. Jeff B says to good morning, Gorilla. And hello from Tennessee, Miss Frosty. A beautiful day. Good morning, everyone, Miss Frosty. Good to see you, sweetie. Brad says hi, Miss Frosty. Jeff B says hail, Miss Frosty. And let's see here. Miss Frosty says hello to Brad Wolf. and also Jeff. And Brad's is very considerate of you, Mikey. I know I appreciate the consideration you give people, in this case with spoilers. Yeah, yeah, because most people don't get a chance to even see these episodes. And if they do become available, which most times they do on YouTube or other forms of social media, uh, like Amazon, things like that, I wanna be considerate and allow people to, not hear what I say on the spoiled part, 'cause then they can find it out for themselves. So that is very much appreciated, Brad, that you told me that, because it does mean a lot to me. I try to be very considerate. I do. I work on that. And I'm always learning. That's the best part. I'm always learning about these webcams and about live streams that I do, and as going forward, and I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. Gorilla says, "Hey Jeff." Jim says, "Hello to Miss Frosty and Gorilla." Gorilla says, "Hey Jim." And Gorilla, yes, you got your big stream tonight. I probably won't be with you uh, on your panel, uh, considering I did 3 streams yesterday. But I will be there for you on your chat. So I'll talk to you in the chat tonight for sure. I know you said it would be either 8 or 9 Central your time. Yeah, so that's fine. I will be there for that tonight. I will do my best for that. Jim says, that's what she said, Gorilla. Oh, Jim, I knew you'd throw that in. Woo! Phew, wow. Slap, slap on you there, buddy. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to the goofs. Okay. Here we go. So, all right. So the first couple of goofs are continuity. So when Spock enters the briefing room after being infected, the briefing room number 2 sign hangs on the bulkhead to the left of the door. When Kirk exits the same briefing room later, the sign is now hanging to the right of the door. And the outside view of the ship shows the planet to be rotating clockwise. The viewer shows counterclockwise. When McCoy goes to inoculate Kirk with the vaccine. Hey, come here, you. Ah, come here. Ah, dang bedbugs. Yeah. All right, let's try this again. When McCoy goes to inoculate Kirk with the vaccine serum, he rips the shirt off Kirk's shoulder before using the hypo. Now, this is the only time this occurs when a hypo is used, as it is normally established that hypos work through clothing. When Kirk and Scotty break into the engine room, Kirk grabs the back of Riley's chair and turns it around to face him. There is an immediate cut to a close up frontal shot of Riley, and Kirk's arm is nowhere to be seen on the chair. Okay, here's one factual error. Granted that after Lieutenant Riley turned the ship's engines off, that just sounds funny when you say you turn off the entire engines of the Enterprise. It would have been impossible to restart the warp engines in the time available except by using risky method depicted. However, there was no mention of whether it was possible to restart the impulse engines, which are capable of all speeds within the sublight realm and would certainly have been more than sufficient to restore the Enterprise's orbit. Now, here's a couple of incorrectly regarded as goofs, and there's a few, so I'm going to try to read through them as fast as I can. When Kirk specifies a course to leave the planet, he specifies a hyperbolic course, which makes no sense since it refers to a hyperbola. A hyperbola can be thought of as two parabolas facing each other, their open ends pointing away from each other. How that figure can be used to define the course of a single ship is difficult to imagine. It would be more likely that the correct course description should have been parabolic. However, a hyperbola is not actually two parabolas facing each other. A parabola is a curve with eccentricity of 1, and a hyperbola is a curve with eccentricity greater than 1. An ellipse is a curve with eccentricity less than 1 with an eccentricity of 0 specifying a circle. While the plane intersecting a conic section results in a twin hyperbola, since the plane must intersect each half of the cone somewhere, an object in an orbit is actually only using one side of the hyperbola. Well, that was a lot. When Scotty When Scotty finishes cutting through the bulkhead in order to regain entry to engineering, the piece he cut out is very hot and, in fact, is smoking. But Scotty grabs it with his bare hands to remove it and yet doesn't get burned. Update. Note that Scotty grabs the cut panel at the bottom right where he had cut it much earlier. The panel was only smoking from the top where he had just finished cutting it. The panel would have had time to cool at the bottom right by the time he grabbed it. And given the location of the cut panel and the equipment behind it, the material used in the bulkhead would almost certainly have properties that would insulate the crew from any heat generated by the equipment behind the panel, so the cut piece would have been cool enough to handle. Everyone who touches someone affected becomes affected themselves, except for Uhura. Although she comes into contact with Sulu's hand and bare torso, she remains unaffected. Now, Nurse Chapel is wearing an obvious wig. This is particularly noticeable when at one point in sick bay, she touches her head and her hair turns very slightly. Of course, Nurse Chapel is wearing a wig. Given the duties of all the personnel and the need for them to report to duty at a moment's notice, wigs would be a great time saving accessory. This is not a goof. When Sulu is injected with the cure, uh, he reacts instantly and knows just where he is. When Kirk is injected, he doesn't react at all, but continues on as if forcing himself to ignore the virus. To find fault with how William Shatner reacts to saving his ship and receiving the vaccine is to deny the drama of the show. Please delete this. It is not a plot hole. Okay, here's a spoiler. Okay, for this. Okay, the spoiler on this one is there seems to be no rhyme or reason to show or to how the infection is spread. Sulu and Riley are infected from fighting with a fully clothed Joe Tormolen, but they did have contact with Tormolen's blood after he stabbed himself, and Chapel by a calm Riley. But Uhura, despite being manhandled by a sweating stripped to the waist, Sulu is not infected. People's immune systems and tolerance levels vary. Also, two scenes later, when Kirk yells at Uhura, she almost bites his head off. So maybe Uhura is just a really mean drunk. Okay, you can remove your ears or hands from your ears there. Okay, revealing mistakes, and there will be a spoiler, so I'll let you know on that too. When they are exploring the base on the planet full of frozen bodies, they examine a frozen female corpse. It is quite clearly a shop window dummy. Near the end, right after Scotty cuts through the wall, Kirk walks behind him, and the camera bounces up and down. Not sure if he hit a part of the stand, but it is noticeable. Towards the end, Kirk orders a hyperbolic course, and Lieutenant Brent at the navigator's station asks for a direction. But he turns to the right to face Spock's station. Spock is in engineering when he asks it. Kirk is over Brent's left shoulder, but if Brent had turned that way to deliver his line, he'd have had his back to the camera. Okay, here's a spoiler. Okay. After the warp engines implode, the ship is going backward in time. They reverse course and time flows forward. The ship's chronometer is calibrated wrong. It goes from 7:59 to 7 back to 8:01. This has been corrected in the remastered edition. Okay, now you can remove your hands from yours. Then there's one miscellaneous goof. It says, after they return from the planet, Kirk is recording in his captain's log and says, but unknown to us, an infectious disease is spreading among the crew. If it is unknown to them, Kirk couldn't report it in the captain's log. That's a big one. All right, here's a few plot holes. After it becomes clear that Riley is infected, Spock orders him to report to sickbay and then calls security and tells them to see to it that he arrives. Although Riley does go to sickbay, he doesn't stay there and ends up taking over engineering. Security apparently never follows up on Spock's order. If they had, they would have been there to stop Riley before he could get to engineering. And Spock has super sensitive hearing. Yet he is completely unaware of the conversation between Riley and Sulu when Sulu decides to leave the bridge. Even when Riley nervously looks over to Spock's station and then says, Sulu, loudly enough to be heard with normal hearing. Spock doesn't hear him or know that Sulu has left the bridge until later. Spock says this solar system's sun has gone dark, yet the planet is clearly illuminated as though the sun is still shining. At the end of this episode, it is made apparent that they had traveled backward in time about 3 days. If this were true, everyone would have realized that they had an opportunity to warn Joe to keep himself from exposure to the infection and would have had the cure for it to administer if their precautions failed. Okay, here's a spoiler for this. The virus itself does not kill people. It merely makes people think they are acting out their dreams. Kevin Riley fancies himself an embodiment of Irish culture, and Hikaru Sulu thinks he's a French musketeer. So why does Tormolin die? Did he subconsciously see himself as dead? Good point. All right, you can take your hands away. Okay. Character error. Tormolin snaps that Sulu doesn't outrank him. Tormolin is a lieutenant junior grade and the only one seen in the series, while Sulu is a full lieutenant. So technically, Sulu does outrank him. Part of the delay involved in getting into engineering is that Scotty has to cut through the wall beside the door to get at the door mechanism to unlock it. He has to go slowly as to not damage circuits behind the wall, and the phaser appears to be on a lower power setting. So why didn't Scotty just cut through the door? He wouldn't have had to he wouldn't have had to had worked nearly as slowly, and he probably would have been able to just disintegrate the door right away rather than having to reduce the phaser's power setting and cutting slowly. Given the time crunch, it would have been much faster than trying to open the door itself. As a bridge officer, Yohura, no doubt, was trained to assume the navigation station in an emergency. However, it is doubtful that a yeoman such as Rand would be qualified to take the helm when Kirk orders it. Now, after Sulu's sword brandishing rampage on the bridge, Spock gives him the Vulcan nerve pinch, right, and then says, "Take D'Artagnan here to sickbay." Now, this use of a humorous metaphor is at odds with Spock's ultra literal, no nonsense manner of speaking, especially because it is later revealed that the virus makes Spock sad and even less likely than usual to make jokes. Okay, very cool. All right, so let's get to quotes here. And before we do that, I'll just let you know I'm going to try my best. When I get to the point of quotes here, try to use my best voice for each. And let's see. Jeff B says somebody woke up in a good mood. Hey Jim, yeah. Bradwood says the engines are on the clapper system. Clap on, clap off the engines. Yeah. Whoa. Hey, come here. Hey, come here. There we go. Oh, dang bed bugs. We have so many problems with those things. Jeff B says Brad LOL. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool, Brad. That was awesome. That was hilarious. Hey, we got some laughter out of that. Okay. All right, so let's get to the quotes. We'll try to get through these as much as possible. So, Sulu to Uhura says, Sulu, acting psychotically, grabs Uhura and pulls her close to him. "I'll protect you, fair maiden." "Sorry, neither," pulls away. Spock stuns Sulu, who is psychotically waving a fencing foil. "Take D'Artagnan here to sickbay. I'm in control of my emotions. Control of my emo!" and starts sobbing. "And no crew, Amarenda caffeine. One more time." Captain Kirk Burgess said, "Please, not again." Riley over the intercom. "Now, attention, cooks. This is your captain speaking. I like double portions of ice cream for the entire crew." And then McCoy to Spock says, "Your pulse is 242. Your blood pressure is practically non existent, assuming you call that green stuff in your veins blood. The readings are perfectly normal for me, doctor. Thank you. And as for my anatomy being different from yours, I am delighted." Then McCoy to Jim says, "Jim, he was decontaminated. He's been medically checked. We've run every test we know for everything that we know. That's not good enough. Well, we're doing everything that's possible. Bones, I want the impossible checked out too. And Riley to Kirk said over the intercom, Lieutenant Uhura, you've interrupted my song. I'm sorry, but there'll be no ice cream for you tonight. Cut them off. I can't, sir. There's no way to do it. Attention, crew. This is Captain Riley. There will be a formal dance in the bowling alley at 1900 hours tonight. And then the Enterprise is spiraling out of control toward a disintegrating planet. Crewmen are going loopy as flies, and Riley, barricaded in the engine room, has been singing off key over the ship's intercom for the last several hours. Rand enters the bridge hurriedly as Kirk drags a hysterically giggling Leslie away from the helm station. I would have gotten here sooner, sir, but crewman Williams stopped me in the hall and take the helm. Sir? Shoving her into the chair. Take the helm! Yes, sir. Kirk pulls the semi-comatose crewman away from the engineering section as Riley's song comes to an end over the intercom. And now, one more time! Stalking over to her frantically, working Uhura. At least try cutting them off. Sir, if I could cut him off, don't you think I... She suddenly remembers to whom she's speaking and visibly gets her temper under control. Yes, sir, I'll keep trying. And ruefully, Captain Kirk says, sorry. And Uhura smiles back at him and gets back to work. And Riley says, you know what Joe's mistake was? He wasn't born an Irishman. And upon seeing that others had finally broken into engineering to end his captaincy. No dance tonight. And Uhura says, entering planet's outer atmosphere, sir. Captain, what is it? He's starting the engines off. They're completely cold. It'll take 30 minutes to regenerate them. Entering planet's outer atmosphere, sir. Ship's outer skin is beginning to heat, Captain. Orbit plot shows we have about 8 minutes left. Scotty, I cannot change the laws of physics. I've got to have 30 minutes. You reign, sir. Who is this? This is Captain Kevin Thomas Riley of the Starship Enterprise. And who's this? This is Captain Kirk. Get out of the engine room, navigator. Where's Mr. Scott? I've relieved Mr. Scott of his duties. Sulu says, don't know if it's this planet or what happened with Joe. I'm sweating like a bridegroom. Yeah, me too. Hey, why didn't you come down to the gym with me, Kevin, my lad? Now? Well, why not? A light workout will take the edge off. Mr. Spock? What is it, nurse? Mr. Spock, the men from Vulcan treat their women strangely. At least people say that. Have no fear. O'Reilly's here, and one Irishman is worth 10,000 of you. You're relieved, Mr. Riley. Lieutenant Uhura, take over this station. Yes, sir. Now that's what I like. Let the women work too. Universal suffrage. Report to sick bay, Mr. Riley. Sick bay? Exactly where I was headed. Sir, Captain Kirk says, we've got to risk implosion. It's our only chance. It's never been done. Don't tell me that again, science officer. It's a theory. It's possible. We may go up into the biggest ball of fire since the last sun in these parts exploded, but we got to take that 1 in 10,000 chance. Bridge to captain. Engineer asked, did you find? Yes, I found Mr. Spock. I'm talking to Mr. Spock. Do you understand? Yes, sir. 3.5 minutes left, Captain. Stand no farther. Oh my, no escape for you. You either leave this war bloodied or with my blood on your swords. No beach to walk on? Sir? Love, you're better off without it, and I'm better off without mine. This vessel, I give, she takes. She won't permit me my life. I've got to live hers. The purpose of a briefing, gentlemen, is to get me answers based on your abilities and experience. In a critical orbit, there's no time for surprise. Unless you people on the bridge start taking showers with your clothes on, my engines can pull us out of anything. We'll be warping out of orbit within a half a second of getting your command. What is it? Nothing but gravity increase, sir. Like the planet reached down and yanked at us. Compensate. All decks, alert system B2. Repeat, go to alert condition Baker 2. Seal off all main sections. Stand by. Mr. Spock? Yes, sir. The time warp. What did it do to us? We regressed in time. 71 hours. It is now 3 days, Captain. 3 days ago, Captain. We have 3 days to live over again. Oh, not those last 3 days. Tourmaline. The other four are back there. Dead? Right, sir. Engineer is post. He's frozen there like he didn't care. In a room alone talking to the ceiling. Never lose you. Never. Richelieu from Solo. Beware! Sulu. Spock reviewing Tourmaline's personality file. His capacity for self-doubt has always been rather high. What puzzles me is what brought it to the surface with such force. Last lines from the episode. Course laid in, sir. Steady as she goes. And the first line from Captain Kirk, Captain's log. Our position, orbiting Psi 2000, an ancient world, now a frozen wasteland about to rip apart in its death throes. Our mission, pick up a scientific party below and observe the disintegration of the planet. Message from the captain. Tell them I'm doing my best. If I cut through the wrong circuits, we have 14 minutes left. Even if we were under a full scale attack, I couldn't move any faster, not and maintain a safety factor. At the rate you're proceeding, calculations show that you'll take a minute and a half more than we have left. You can't afford a safety factor. Hey, Joey, you feeling all right? Get off me. You don't rank me. You don't have pointed ears. Just get off my neck. All right. Cool. And so Bruce Hyde is Riley. The song I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen, is uncredited, and it was written by a man named Thomas Paine Westendorf. And then, of course, you have the theme written by Alexander Courage for the show, and then another person that performs it is William Frederick Knight, and that's the soundtracks on the episode. And of course, filmed at Desilu Studios there in Culver City. And the filming dates were from June 30th, 1966 to July 11th, 1966. So it didn't last very long, but that's cool. All right, before I give you the quick mini bios on the two people I wanted to look at today in this episode, let's see what else we have here. Okay, so Jeff B, after we set the clap on, clap off the engines. Yeah. Uh, and laughing at Brad from Jeff, and thank you, Jeff. And Playing Down Under. Hello, Playing Down Under. Good to see you. Good morning, all. And he says, Playing Down Under says, no, 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 no. I don't want to be a monkey wrench. Okay. Uh, all right. So Playing Down Under. Do you want me to take away your wrench? I can certainly do that. I don't have a problem. But if you want me to keep it, just leave it there. You don't have to worry about anything, okay? Please tell me for sure if you want me to take that away. I don't have a problem with that. But I need to hear it from you. You need to tell me. Okay? Because being a wrench means a lot, meaning that you're a part of our family. You already are, but I'm just saying that it means a lot to be able to post links from your channel or links for other people that you like, that you follow. So, yes, I mean, that would be great. Yes, I don't like power. Okay. All right. All right. Well, the first time I've done this, so okay. There you go. Plain Down Under is no longer a standard moderator for the channel. Okay? So there you go. All right. Brad Wolf says hello there, Plain Down Under. Brad. And Jeff says hi PDU. And Jeff with a thumbs up. People need to be nude more often. Well, yeah, in most cases. Yes, I don't like power. Okay, well, I did take it away. Sorry about that. First time I've had to do that for a while, so I apologize, okay? But, let me know if you ever feel you want to retract. We can do that, okay? No worries. Anyway, uh, let's go ahead and take a look at before we're done. Thank you. Don't be offended. It's just me. Hey, no worries. No worries. Playing down under, please. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, the two people we were looking at were Bruce Hyde playing Riley, and then we were looking at what was his name again? Well, just two of the main cast here. Stuart Moss, right, that played Tormolin. So we'll look at Stuart first. Okay, Joe Tormolin, played by Stuart Moss. Unfortunately, we did lose him in 2017. He was the age of 79. He was in a movie called Bat People in 1974. Then he did Star Trek before that, of course, and he was in a movie called Black Sheep Squadron from 1976. He died on September 13th, 2017, in Walla Walla, Washington. He was born in 1937 in Chicago, Illinois. And like I said, besides the Bat People in 74 as Dr. John Beck, he was in one episode of Black Sheep Squadron with, Robert Conrad. He played Lieutenant Commander Hightower for one episode in 76. He was, after he played Tormolin, he played Hanar, Hanar. So that was two episodes he did of Star Trek. And in the TV series Beyond Westworld, he played the role of Foley in 1980 for one episode. And the last show he did before passing away, or before retiring and then passing away, he was in the TV movie called, excuse me, called Bonanza the Return. He played the role of Preston McAdam in 1993. And before that, he was in Gunsmoke the Long Ride, the TV movie. He played Dr. Strader in that. So that was Stuart Moss. So rest in peace, Stuart. We missed you. We miss you. Okay, and then Bruce Hyde. Okay, Bruce Hyde, who played Lieutenant Riley. Yeah, unfortunately, he also passed in 2015. He was born in September of 1941. He died October 13th, 2015. So if he had still been alive today, uh, he last month, he would have been the age of 83, but he did die at the age of 74. He got a Bachelor of Arts degree at Northwestern University in 1963, a Master of Science, University of North Texas in 1984, and he got a PhD at USC in 1990. He divided his teaching duties between the Department of Theater, Film Studies, and Dance, where he taught acting, and the Department of Communication Studies, where he taught interpersonal and small group communication. So, this guy was very studious. So besides the two episodes that he played Kevin Riley in Star Trek, he was in That Girl series. He played Hobart Niles for one episode. Then he was in a TV series called Vacation Playhouse back in '66, where he played Binky Stubbs for one episode. And then he was the mysterious man in a movie called The Confession of Lee Harvey Oswald. And right, he did that in 2010. And let's see here. Yeah, so that was it. That was his last acting role. Oh, and he did one episode of the Beverly Hillbillies in 1966. He was a floor walker in that. So he had done a lot of '60s stuff, but then when he was done with acting, he was a professor because he had a PhD. So very cool, Bruce Hyde. Yeah, unfortunately he passed, but yeah, I mean that's cool knowing that someone who played Riley was very, like I said, very uh, studious young gentleman. So yeah, very cool. Okay, and let's see. So let's go on here to our next episode next Tuesday. And let's see. I believe that is the Enemy Within. So we'll go back here to the series. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, okay. So, next Tuesday, I will go into a little more detail about the next episode, The Enemy Within from season one, which is episode five, categorically, in the series. That's where the transporter malfunction split Captain Kirk into two halves, one meek and indecisive, the other violent and ill tempered. The remaining crew members stranded on the planet cannot be beamed up to the ship until the problem is fixed. And yeah, that's the one where he goes, "I want to live, I want to live." They grab onto him, and it's kind of funny. I mean, it's a decent episode, but but actually, most people liked it because of Shatner's duality and the way that he was able to play two different entirely depictions of Kirk of both sides. So I thought that was probably the most unique, and it was probably one of my more cool episodes to watch, just to see his transformation into these two, uh, opposites of his nature and personality. As I said on the Naked Time here, a majority of people have voted it. The average score was 7.8 out of 10. So for them, that's pretty much a B. For me, I would say, yeah, I gave it a, because 5 out of 5 is a straight A. So I gave it a four. I gave it a 4.4 out of 5. So I gave it pretty close to a B plus. I'd say right around B. Okay, I go to like a 4.6. So I would say this was one of the better episodes. It was cool. Just seeing Sulu go nuts, Riley singing off "I Want You Again," Kathleen, and all this other stuff. It was just kind of cool. Some people don't like it because it just has a really weird conflagration, right? I mean, of personalities and everybody going nuts and Spock crying and doing, and Scotty working real slow when he could have just taken the phaser and disintegrated the whole door. Yeah, things like that. I mean, it was just kind of just all over the place. But for me, I thought it was cool, and and I loved that the fact that Enterprise, the way that Kirk ran it, a lot was orderly. It was fastidious. It was great. Everything was fine. But then when you have this one problem on the planet and they bring it up and they unknowingly, and then it turns the entire crew, all 435 of them, I just checked on the number, uh, turns them all nuts. I mean, yeah, it's cool. I think it's a great episode. I really do. And well, it's not one of the greatest episodes because those are coming later, as you all know. In season two and then three. But I mean, this is one of the better episodes of season one. I totally agree with it. And I mean, in my own opinion. But yours can differ. I mean, you people, the people there in the chat could always tell me what you thought of this episode and how you thought it was, either cool or just kind of out there or just kind of weird or just dumb or, I mean, you can tell me in future comments. And please leave comments on these videos at the end if you want. That would be very nice to see because I do tend to read them every once in a while, and just to see what you thought of what and how I'm doing and everything. Let me know. I mean, I love doing this, and you all asked for these episodes, and I like to go into a little more detail. And I try to be, as Brad Wolf wonderfully said, I do try to be considerate when it comes to spoiler parts of the episode or whatever happened in it. So I do want to make sure I tell you folks about that so that you can be aware. And then if you want to go see the episode, then you don't know the spoilers and you'll be more surprised, right? So uh, yeah, and, Playing Down Under says, "Nice, you have something to fall back on." That's very cool, yeah. And Shatner is such an underrated actor. I agree. I totally agree. William Shatner is a great actor. I had to say that. Not only because he's a Canadian, like I am now, but I mean, he's very cool. Very calm demeanor. Yeah, he can get angry sometimes, but that's because people just bug the hell out of him and ask him all to do, replay these parts from his role, and TJ Hooker, and his Murdoch role, from Airplane 2, the sequel. It's like, why doesn't somebody tell me about these things? It comes out of the thing. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like the character development in this episode. I agree. I agree. Thank you, Jeff B. Yeah, it gave Spock. That's the best part too. One of the best parts, I think, is that it gave Spock a little more depth into his character because we weren't really sure. I mean, when you see the first few episodes, you're not really sure of what this, what the Vulcan is about, right? You do realize, I think, early on, I think they did reveal part of it that he's part human and part Vulcan, and his emotions and his logic tend to collide all the time. And what happens is that this very uh, potent, I would say, definitely water type disease allows him to bend a little bit. Okay, instead of being like a stiff robot just walking there with his ears, he is an actual human being. He can show his human side. And I think that one part I read where he said he did it in one take is absolutely amazing. If you watch the episode yourself, for the first time, you know none about anything about this. But if you want everything I've talked about today, but if you go to see it for your very first time and you look at that scene where he is just broken down, he's a broken. He feels like he's a broken husk of himself for one moment in time where he's just like, the tears and everything is real, not artificial or anything. It is fantastic. And it is actually one of the best parts, the best scene of the whole episode. I think it is. Other than seeing George Takei running around half naked with a big sword. So and Riley singing. You know what? He's not a bad singer, right? He did music. He was fine. I think that Shatner just got tired after a while. And said, "Why does this guy keep singing? Why? Why? I don't want to hear this guy anymore. No, no. Even Uhura, Nichelle Nichols, who was a great singer in her own right, right? She just goes like, no, 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 you're not no more. No, it's terrible, terrible. I totally agree. I totally agree. Uh, yeah, Bruce, this is in your memory. I'm sorry. Yes, rest in peace. But yeah, enough is enough. When you sing it like once or twice, twice is enough after that. That's yeah. Playing down under says, I think I'd be angry too, if I was an actor and people kept asking me the same thing. That's absolutely true. Yes. Well, there's that one line that Shatner says in an opening monologue, right, for Saturday Night Live, we're standing there, all the geeks, supposed geeks, are asking him questions. He said, "Why don't you guys get a?" He says, "Why don't you guys get a life? Yeah, men and women get a life. There's life outside of Star Trek, and and you don't have to go to this. I know it was a joke, right? But I mean, that's why I like the documentary Trekkies so well, because which was hosted by Denise Crosby. And if you want to see it, it is available on YouTube. The full documentary is there, and it's been remastered. So yeah, check it out. Trekkies. The narrator Denise Crosby, who played Tasha Yar on TNG. Um, Absolutely fantastic. There is also the documentary called The Captains, which is hosted by Shatner, and that is a great documentary as well. So make sure you check those two out. They are available on YouTube right now. Just look them up and you'll find them. Okay. So the enemy within is next Tuesday. And don't forget, we do have two more episodes of The Greatest American Hero tomorrow. I believe those are episode 15 and 16 of season two. Whatever time I decide to do them tomorrow. So be aware of that. Don't forget, of course, if you love this episode, if you really love this episode and you really enjoyed the more detail I went into it today, make sure you hit that like button. Also, don't forget to share this with your friends and family and acquaintances. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We are at 215, which is a wonderful number, but the next goal we're hoping for is 250, and we are trying for 250 before the end of this year. So if we can get to 250, which is halfway to 500, and hopefully some monetization maybe down the line, if we're really into that. I really am not. I mean, I really don't need it. But when times get rough and if they get tougher, yes, I could probably use a couple bucks here and there just to help us out. So yeah, cooking is free. Oh, clicking is free. That's true. You only have to click for 2 seconds or less than that. It's free. Thank you, my love. Yes, absolutely. Uh, yeah, and on the notifications, please, when you subscribe, make sure you hit all notifications, the ding, ding, ding bell, make sure it's fully lit, so that from then on, if we do, when we do, I should say, not if, we will, we plan on a lot more webcams next year because you folks asked for it. For other series too, Get Smart, In Search of. We're going to do a lot of stuff next year. These polls that I'll be announcing the results on December 1st look very promising. In fact, we got a lot of things planned. But like I said, with that being said, make sure when you see where it says notify me, hit that just once for free. And it says notification on, and it will tell you when the next webcam is available and it comes out, and also our next very live stream. Now, as far as we know and what we got planned, we do have let's see, one, two, we have technically for our channel, we have 3 more live streams coming. We do have one for November 28th. What the time on each of these is to be determined. I'm trying to figure out how I can fit it into schedule and what we're going to be doing because Suzanne and I are going to be doing other personal things. We're going to be working on things. So, time to be determined. I'll just say that for now. But we have one live stream we're doing on November 28th. That's a coming Thursday. It will be on Thursday evening. We're also going to celebrate my dad's birthday and my uncle's birthday, Uncle Justin. So that is for that day. Then in December, as I said, we're going to take some time off for some other matters we need to attend to. During that time, as I said, we'll have one webcam on December 1st. Then we will have Christmas Eve, which is on the 24th. Then there's a special Christmas Day one I'm going to be doing with uh, two of our wonderful sisters, Raquel SSG 2211 and Moira Kitty, and a bunch of our friends too. We're going to have a nice Christmas Day stream, hopefully, and then we're all going to do a New Year's Eve December 31st, we're doing a stream to bring in the new year. And so there will be a lot of, it's going to be a select panel only, but we do have that because, in mind, because we do have certain time zones that need to be addressed. And there are friends in our panel and in our chat and in our community that can help us out. So that's what we're going to do on New Year's Eve on the 31st. And then on January 1st is the big reveal. I'm going to let you folks all know what's going to happen moving forward for this channel next year. So, and of course, things can always change, right? The times they are changing. But things can change too. So just be aware of that when I go come on January 1st and let everybody know what's happening. So, okay. And yeah, he is so good with comedy. He's a funny guy. I loved him in Third Rock from the Sun. I agree. I agree. Yeah, Get Smart. Yes. Thank you. Appreciate the heart. Yes, we're going to get into Get Smart next year. Yes. Are you working on a secret app? No, I am not playing Down Under. No. Mm-mm. I don't have apps like that. I don't work on that. And hello, Moira. And yeah, oh, that's so cute, Moira. Yeah, Moira. Oh, yeah, yeah, good stuff. Good to see you. It's good to see you too. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and do our quick prayer and then we'll head on out the door here and we got other things to do today. Uh yeah, is it 9 already, baby? Yeah, so I better get my pants on. Okay, so name of the Father's 9:14. Okay, thank you. So in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this wonderful thing we call social media. We are right now saying some special prayers for a few special people in our family community, such as Larry, who, as we know, had just recently lost his mother, dearest in this world, Charlene. So we're continuing to say prayers for his family, as well as his wife Diane, his son Tyler, and his sister. We're all asking for special consideration, some love, support, and friendship for Larry in these next trying and coming days. We're also asking for our friend Jason, who is over in Michigania with his wonderful partner, Nikki. We want to say prayers for them as well and help them get through tough times. We're also asking for our friend Jay and his friend Renee as they try to get through life together. Jay's going through a lot of medical issues as well as Larry, so we're asking for the Lord and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and the Blessed Virgin Mary all to help us through these tough times. And hopefully, with the elections now passed in the United States, that everyone can get through and have a more fruitful lives coming up next year. And then for Canada, the same thing. We're asking the Lord to impress upon people to make the right decision and to give us a leader that will be forthright and reliable to help Canada into the next couple of years as well. So, for all this, we ask in the name of our Lord God, Amen and Amen, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So, thank you, everyone, for being here today. I appreciate you that we had 9 likes. Very awesome. Thank you. 7 people still watching. We really do love you guys and gals being here for us to, uh, you know, listen a little bit more detail about the episode, my own personal impressions of it, because luckily I got to see all 79 episodes, so I've got my own personal experiences and I can tell you how I felt when I saw the episodes myself. And I think that's important. I think that most people can give their own perspective, which I think is wonderful. It's just a wonderful thing. And all of you voted for this. So I'm very happy about that too. That's why polls are so important because you folks can tell us what you want us to do in the future and things that you want like to see. And that's what we like to do for you here on MikeySuzeFour. So, once more time, as we go on to the breach, dear friends, as Mr. Gene Siskel, the most awesome movie critic in the world, rest in peace, the aisle is now closed. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Before I leave, I want to thank Playing Down Under. Nice prayer, very kind. Thank you so much. Brad Wolf says, Amen. And the polls are the essence of a channel. I agree. I agree. Jim says, bye, everyone. Have a great, cool day. My high 48 cold. Oh, yeah, we're 36 Fahrenheit here, Jim. Jeff B says, best to you all, and hi, Suze. Thank you, Jeff B. Jim's Landscape says, amen. And Brad Wolf says, okay, Mikey, have a great rest of your day. Thank you, sir. And thank you so much, everyone, honestly, for being here. So, on behalf of Brad, on behalf of Jim, on behalf of Jeff, on behalf of Playing Down Under, on behalf of Gorilla's Random Thoughts, and la 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 la, there's Jeff. And on behalf of Miss Frosty, a beautiful day, our lady from Tennessee. Thank you so much, there, Miss Frosty. And let's see. Dooby dooby dooby. And who's this guy? Mikey says forward. He says, good morning, everyone. Live long and prosper. Yeah, that's that guy. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here. And there was a mess up on aisle 32 last night, but we fixed it. It's done. I had to work all night to get it done, but it's done. Take care. Love you all. Thank you, Playing Down Under. Thank you. And remember, be nice to yourselves out there. Take care of each other. Love each other. Don't forget your parents these holiday season. Make sure you call them. Make sure you send a letter, do anything, but make sure you stay in touch with them. The holidays are most important this year. We need more unity. Unity. We need to bring more people together. So with that in mind, peace from Mikey Sue's 4. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow on our next review for The Greatest American Hero. And God bless everyone. God bless America, and God bless Canada. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon. Good advice. Thank you. Thank you, playing.